Hello, welcome to Oxford Heirlooms. Today, I've decided I'm going to hold off on making the sleeves and setting them in because I'm still thinking in my head about how I want to handle the cuff of the little sleeves. So I'm going to, since I have the side seams, I've created French seams and I press them to the back. I'm going to go ahead and hem the garment today. Now, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've buttoned my garment from the top of the garment to the bottom of the garment, and the bottom edges of the fabric line up because I use the same seam allowance up at the top, and I measured with my ruler to mark where my buttons and buttonholes should go. Okay, now I have decided that I want to do a scalloped hem on this. Now this is kind of mimics what some people call a Madeira hem, but this is just an easy way to get that look, and I like to do it. Okay, now I'm going to, on the front of the fabric, I'm going to use my sewing gauge, and I'm going to mark 2 inches from the bottom of the fabric on both the right and the left piece, and 4 inches from the bottom of the fabric on the right and the left piece. So you can see I've made some marks. Okay, now I can go ahead and leave this buttoned. It's not going to hurt it. Now, using my fabric or my sewing gauge, okay, now I've got the outside of the fabric facing me, so it looks like I'm going to be hemming this garment on the wrong side, but I'm not. If you'll follow along with my process, you will understand what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to fold it where it is 2 inches. The hem allowance allows for 2 inches. And then using my sewing pins, I'm going to start pinning that in place. Okay, now I've opened up the facing because I'm going to unbutton this very bottom button to give myself a little bit of room. Okay, so I'm pinning a 2-inch hem all along the bottom edge of the garment, being careful to line up my side seams. Using my sewing gauge again, I just simply reach in, line the fabric up at the 2-inch mark, and then put a pin to hold it in place. Okay, now I need to do this all along the hem of the garment, so I will do that and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, now I have pinned I have folded the fabric 2 inches and I pinned it all the way along the hem. And this may look kind of strange because I've actually pinned it to the outside of the garment. The next thing that I did, I started on the back piece of the garment, and I folded it in half by matching up the 2 side seams. Okay, and then along the top of the fold of the fabric, I've used my friction erasable pen, and I have made a mark at the center of the back on the fold of the fabric, and then simply lining up the center with the side seam, I folded the fabric in half again, and I made another little mark that splits the back of the fabric into 4ths. And then I did that one more time to divide the fabric evenly into 8ths. And I've made little marks all along the edge of the fabric. Let me see if you can see that. Okay, so the back of the fabric is divided into 8 equal spaces. Now on the front of the fabric, I don't want my scallop to start at the inside edge of the facing. I want my scallop to start where the facing folds over. So I've made a mark there, and then once again, by simply folding the fabric in half and then folding the fabric in half again, I split the front piece into 4 equal pieces. So the back piece has 8 equal spaces and the front piece has 4 equal spaces. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to draw some scallops on the fabric. And to do that, I'm going to use my friction erasable pen. I'm also going to use a bread and butter plate that came from my grandmother's china. If you've ever wondered what to do with your grandmother's or your great-grandmother's china, you know, using the plates as templates works very nicely. Okay, so I'm going to position the plate in between 2 of the markings, and then using my friction erasable pen, I'm going to draw a line along the edge of the plate, which I'm going to sew in a little bit. Okay, now between each of my markings, I'm simply going to position my plate, draw a line, and I'm going to do this all along the edge of the garment because in a little bit, I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew along this line. Now, when I get to the front facing, what I'll need to do is I'm going to want it to fold over on itself. So I'm going to position my plate and draw just a portion of a arc for the circle. Now I need to do this all the way around the edge of the garment, so this will take me a few minutes and I'll get right back with you. Okay, so I have marked my arcs for my scallop all along the edge of the fold side of the hem of the garment, okay? Now what I will do is I'll use my sewing machine and I will sew right on the line that I drew, and I'll leave my needle in the machine and I will pivot when I get to these little points. Now please notice that at the front edging, the front opening, I have started my arc where the facing is going to fold to the back, okay? And I've drawn just a portion of a arc going from that mark to the edge of the facing. So now I need to sew. Okay, so now I need to take this garment to my sewing machine, and like I said, I will be sewing a straight line or a straight seam along the scallop lines that I've marked on here. But that's what I'm doing today.